Communication is so key. And I think, Noble, you hit on such a huge point around just omnipresence and any tool. Like I would say any tool that's going to make your life easier when it comes to doing that. Spend the time and energy to learn it, to digest how to use it, because it's worth just trying it out and seeing if that makes a difference. There's so many tools, like you mentioned, out there. And so it's about like brainstorming with great partners so that you can figure out what's the one that works for you.
Welcome to the world of Eve Pacific. I'm your partner in evolution, Noble Woods. Today, we embark on an exciting journey into the heart of artificial intelligence and automation. Our mission is to harness the power of advanced AI technology, merging it with our deep digital strategy expertise to deliver customized solutions across various business management systems. This episode is sponsored by Objective Investment Banking and Valuation. Their firm's name embodies the core mission: to help business owners achieve their objectives. Today's guest on our very first show is the magnificent marketing marvel, Cathy Cao. Cathy is the VP of Marketing at Objective. Objective is a leading investment banking and valuation firm that services middle market companies in select industries of focus: business services, consumer, healthcare, life sciences, M&D, and technology. Within their industries of focus, Objective offers an investment banking group providing sell-side advisory and a full-service valuation group providing tax compliance, financial reporting, transaction opinion, and strategic advisory services. Founded in 2006, Objective's seasoned professionals have collectively executed over 500 M&A advisory engagements and thousands of business valuations throughout their careers. Their firm's name embodies their core mission: to help business owners achieve their objectives. Learn more and find additional resources at objectiveibv.com. Now on with the show. Hi, Cathy. How are you this morning?
Wonderful, Noble. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for giving up some of your time. You are one of the most interesting people that I know, and I would want no other person to be on our first podcast than you.
Well, I'm honored.
So I gave you a little intro, but I want you to share with our audience your professional background. I know you don't like to ring your own bell, but share some of your achievements and personal anecdotes related to AI. Because the first time that we talked, you blew my mind with the study that you had actually used some large language modeling training, and you were involved in some very interesting projects. So please enlighten me.
Thank you so much, Noble. And I'll start with actually the fact that I am the daughter of a database engineer father and an enterprising mother. And so because of that, I feel like I'm destined to do digital strategy, digital marketing. Throughout my career, I had really just like such fortunate timing between what I was curious about. And I think that's where we both connect so well, is that we both are super curious, love to learn people. And so when I was put in that situation with the current evolution of digital strategy and access to projects for different companies around technology and AI, I just jumped 2 feet in. I was not afraid to, explore what I didn't know. And so that led me to 3 big projects that I'm super proud of. And I couldn't believe that I got the opportunity to work with some of the best in product engineering. I was with Compass, which is a real estate startup. Now they are actually, I think, #1 in many markets across the country, where they built a marketing center for real estate agents. It was solving the problem of previously, if you were a realtor and you wanted to launch your exclusive listing, you had to write up your description, get your photos together, but then you send it to your assistant, because that assistant had to send that same set of information to like 4 or 5 different people just to get your listing up. You were sending it to your webmaster to get it on your website or your company's website, and then a bunch of syndications to like now we have Zillow and Redfin and all these other platforms. Then you're sending it to your printer to help you create that flyer and brochure. Then you're sending it to your social media manager, or if the assistant is pulling double duty, the assistant has to, handle the social media assets. And lastly, you want to also send it out in email. So that's a lot to handle for just one listing. And so we created a product that is almost like Zillow and Canva had a baby. And so was able to, in one place, just through a couple clicks, upload your content. Now there's a Gen AI component to it, so it can even help you write that listing description, plug in your photos, and it goes to all of those places for you. You pre-select your preferred template for your social media video post or ad. You pre-select the email template that you like. And so for every listing, it's only a couple clicks, and then you have your final assets. So that was such a cool project that I got to work on, where I got to understand automation. I got to understand how data syndication works. And then lastly was really thinking through how to train our real estate agents and our assistant, because in some capacities, we were actually taking a lot off of the assistant's plate. And so they had some concerns around, what does this mean about their evolution, and what does this mean for the business in general? And I know we have some interesting time and topics to get into that as we continue in the
Yes, definitely.
podcast.
No. This is amazing. So you actually built this tool in-house. That is fascinating. Go
That was
on.
a team of people. So that's where I got to do so much learning, because I work with product managers, I work with engineers, I work with our own designers to create a bunch of different templates, so that every agent can have their own look and feel. It's like that saying where if you take a music verse and you change, I think it's 3 or 4 notes, you have actually a new song. And it was the same concept around working with some of the best designers who are now at NASA and Disney and all these incredible places, that we figured out, okay, what is that secret formula to change up the flyer so that each one feels unique per real estate agent? Because we're working for now one of the nation's biggest brokerages, and we want to really empower real estate agents to have choice without overwhelming them, of course. And I got to work with also just overall incredible strategists who were future first, under the leadership of Robert Rifkin, who is such a technology visionary. That was at a time when we were still a startup. Today, Compass is on the, New York Stock Exchange as a public company. So it's really incredible to be part of that journey.
I think one of the most attractive components that you just expounded on was how technology helps individualize the components for salespeople and marketers. They believe that most people believe that technology just enhances productivity, but it helps individualize those that are trying to actually build their own brand, right? So people shouldn't be afraid of AI as it comes into a system. Is that what you're
That's
conveying?
absolutely right. And taking a couple steps back and thinking about now where I am, which is at a investment bank that's focused on working with mid market business owners, I have seen how working in these unicorn startups has now led to processes that are much more accessible through working with consultants like Eve Pacific Media and working with incredible strategic thinkers like Noble on how to access that same type of ease of use, quickness to market, access to data without needing to have a huge engineering team or product managers or etc. It's about finding that right partnership to really give you the access to leverage some of these really important touch points around helping your business, and ultimately what does that mean for you as a business financially.
Yeah, a lot of businesses, and that's what we try to cater to here in our audience, our entrepreneurs and smaller businesses that have to be, that are small by design or by constraints of finances, right? And they have to do more with less. That's that old ethos in business from the 80s, right? We have to do more with less, not just because of greed or profit, or
It's just from the lack of resources. But innovation has enabled small companies to have this huge presence. And it is innovators like you that bring those individuals and their ideas to the masses. It was one thing that we talked about the first time we met. Was about a project where you were training data on a large language model and more of a psychological aspect or therapy aspect. Could you expound upon that? Because it's something that really piqued my interest.
Absolutely. So that was actually a passion project of mine because I am a big proponent about helping youth access mental health and mental wellness resources at an early age. And it's one of those things that has so much stigma around just accessing those resources. So I worked on a PhD project where we were training a semantic model to help create a digital avatar to which these, teenagers could be talking about themselves, to be communicating around their everyday life. And this, avatar was trained on, hundreds of thousands of interviews with, all types of youth, but also a big proponent of them had symptoms around, psychotic tendencies. And so, how do you help those as early on as possible start to self recognize what are the things about, hereditary traits that can lead to mental illness later on? What are those access to understanding around your behavior that, it takes time to digest. And so this avatar was trained on this huge set of semantic data, both where we had to actually categorize each part of the script around, okay, what does this set of words mean as far as like helping people understand what does hereditary mean? What are the different ways that you can say hereditary versus that same words could be rearranged and be talking more about what does it mean to get tested for certain
Right.
things and what does symptoms mean. So it was really interesting project to really just dive into how words show up and ultimately how this technology works, which is by looking at how words are being put together. It is actually creating the next set of words that is going to come, which is part of generative AI, and how today, children are brought up to learn how to string together sentences, etc. So it's a very similar practice actually of looking at how language is developed, and then by recreating that in the technology, we're creating an avatar that becomes a psychiatrist for youth before they're even realizing that they need to or want to seek out a therapist.
That is amazing. Everyone now is coming to the realization of how AI will be able to bring that individual attention to education, therapy, just learning. I spent about a decade working in education, and I just today am a huge proponent of bringing individualized treatment and education to the youth, right? To help individuals self actualize and to know what issues are and be able to actually articulate it. And having an avatar instead of someone hovering over you that you don't really know and have to learn to trust and buy in to their help. That avatar really seems a little bit more personal, even though it might seem impersonal, right?
Yes.
That is amazing. Now, I would like to touch now again on the space that you're in. Now, had you ever worked in finance before joining the objective team?
Great question. So after Compass, I ended up working for a private equity firm. And it's through that private equity firm that got me reconnected to the roots of it's well and good to help boards make lots of money, to help already high net worth investors continue to make more money. But thinking back and reflecting on what is my goal as an individual, I wanted to go to those roots of what my mother was as an entrepreneur and how I want to like continue to help other entrepreneurs. And that's why I loved my time at Compass. And so I ended up working, yes, at the private equity firm and then transitioning now to Objective, working with mid-market business owners and entrepreneurs, which brings me so much fulfillment and being able to take, again, these processes that work for massive companies and really tailor it down to helping Objective grow. And so with Objective, like you mentioned, I love that you called out doing more with less, and thinking through how to use marketing automation to really touch all of these business owners in a really tailored way. They're in 6 different industries. Each industry itself has different strategies that our MDs and managing directors have so much expertise around. After creating a bank of content based on all of that strategy and insight and expertise, we then want to create automation to get that information to the targeted audience member versus spamming everybody, right? Like we wanted to make sure that we're really thoughtful about what that customer journey is and helping them understand it's a very complicated world how investment banking and valuation can actually work together to help you set up your thinking around your business for an exit. So because of that, we create all of these different custom journeys where we can tell from how our audience is engaging with the content, whether they are more ready to get on a call immediately with one of our managing directors so that we can prepare them for potentially a sale, or if they are, looking for just some financial valuation help to really understand what their financials look like and how to optimize that for financial reporting, or if there's some tax compliance needs that they need, etc. So like really using content as a way to understand our audience and then giving them and serving them that next best step, so that it best utilizes our internal resources as well as being our end business owner. And the beauty of all of this is that it's one simple platform. It's not something we had to build. It's not something that, is incredibly expensive and unaffordable. We were able to leverage HubSpot and then also some generative AI tools, some of which that Noble, you've actually suggested to help us make sure that the content is really tailored to that and business owner's objective.
So a lot of people believe, like with the emergence around early last year of the proliferation of OpenAI's ChatGPT, that AI is very new. For those of us in the know, now having to spread the news to small businesses and entrepreneurs, no, these tools have been around a long time. I started out with Jarvis writing content and transitioned into platforms such as Koala, which is built on one of these platforms that have been recently introduced. And when you think of an ecosystem, you being in marketing, a lot of systems don't talk to each other, but platforms like HubSpot, right? When you think about API nets that you can bring in, like the Zapier, which has been around and is actually expanding its capabilities. Businesses need to know these things, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And especially smaller businesses and entrepreneurs in spaces, like you said, you cover multiple industries. Most owners, operators, employees, team members are focusing on their individual tasks and don't have time to look up, breathe, and look around them to find out how they can enhance their frameworks and their operations with just a few simple tools. And that is the reason that this podcast exists. We want to bring to the masses what has been in existence and what is improving and what is yet to come, right? Before we go any further, I really want to dial this back to a human aspect, right? I really get egghead and drill down in the weeds, but let's bring the human aspect into this. Star Trek or Star Wars? Which
Star
are you?
Trek all the way.
And so you're not on the P Doom side of things. You're looking more for a world full of abundance. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
Yeah, I lived my life on the dark side for a long time. I used to raise capital for small, micro scaled businesses on the over the counter bulletin board. So it was the competition was real, right? Those unicorns came few and far between. Everybody needed money. But back to AI and how it's advancing so quickly. What do you see in marketing are some of the future prospects for, like I just mentioned Zapier and integrations. What do you see coming in your field that you're really excited about over the next year to 18 months?
Yeah, I definitely see that it's like two parts. There's the excitement and there's a little bit of fear. And let's first talk about how actually the fear allows us to really focus on what we're excited about. And I really love to turn fear around in the sense of, no, it's easy to be scared by all of this change. And that is like the number one fear. Everyone I talk to, they're like, there's so much change I can't even digest. There's so much noise I don't even know what to listen to. And when I hear those things, think back to like how Noble, we've had our conversations where I was just like, I need someone that I know knows this stuff. I know might know actually a lot more about the stuff than I do, that I want to bounce ideas off of and I want to hear their point of view on. So, as a marketer, I get overwhelmed with vendors reaching out and all of these, that talk about how they can, tell me about how my SEO is doing, how my email marketing is doing, how my website is doing, etc. And I actually take the time to like vet through them so that every 2 weeks, I'm not talking about anything that's going to, distract you from getting through your company goals or hitting the quarterly objectives. I'm talking about, just maybe 30 minutes every 2 weeks to pick at least one to hear them out, because I think it's so important to hear how an outside perspective in this noisy world is seeing what's happening. But it is, again, so important to make sure that you are starting to learn and digest and being able for yourself to differentiate, okay, who are those experts in the market? How do I see them as experts in the market? And I think it comes down to valuable content that they're putting out. I see that everyone is going to be using Gen AI to create more content. It's going to get noisy. So making sure that you have for yourself at least a 300,000 foot view of what's going on, so you can have a inner gauge of like, okay, this is like, yes, they're on the right track here, and therefore I want to hear more from this person, versus like, this just seems like they're just putting out content to put out content and grab my attention and probably not worth my time. So I think it's so important to have that capability within yourself as a business owner, within yourself as a marketer, within yourself as a critical thinker in today's society. And then seeking out those experts to tell you more, to learn more, to see more points of view that you probably didn't even think to think about.
Yeah, exactly. I go to sleep with my headphones in and I am digesting so many podcasts just to pick up on the temperature of where we are. What am I missing? Huge on some of these West Coast guys that live right in my backyard, like Wes Raw. Matt Wolf is amazing. He puts out a lot of great content about the tools that people are using, and not just those that, from the top developers, but he dives deep and goes find these hidden jewels that you can utilize today. I just, again, it's hard to follow everyone, but I found a few people I know, like, and trust that I can give my attention to, which I feel like that time I don't worry about getting it back in my life. Liam Evans is another guy that helps these people that build agencies like how we've expanded into AI, right? And automations. We started out, you know, totally focused on SEO and funnel building, and then we started utilizing these tools to help us in our daily work, and we said, hey, these are things that can be offered to small businesses like ours to help grow, right? Not just about profitability, but the building blocks towards success comes in operations, right? Streamlining processes, getting the most out of everything you can. These, I, I don't get out much. This is how I get to interact. And the problem that I always had as an entrepreneur, no one to bounce these things off of, right? So I've started leading on conversations with AI. So when I actually get to do these in real life conversations, I have something to talk about that brings value to the table. But who are some of the people that you like to tap on the shoulder and bounce ideas off with?
Yeah, love that you brought up podcasts. I'm also a huge podcaster, and I wanted to shout out Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. They're like my go-to as far as just hearing like their point of view. They're also hilarious and just entertaining. And for me, as far as like who do I tap on to bounce ideas off of, I really think about number one, our internal team members. You know, really taking the time to digest their feedback, and especially when it comes to new innovations that you want to bring, it's so important to understand deep down what's driving each person, because once you're ready to kind of roll out that new process, you want to make sure that you are meeting ultimately all of these different objectives, because change is hard, as we all know. And so we want to tap into like understanding their challenges, so that ultimately what you're building to streamline the business is going to have everyone already on board and excited for you. So I always start with tapping the shoulders of those around me within the organization. And then when it comes to tapping the shoulders of like the incredible agencies that I know I could come back to as a partnership. So Noble, like yours, I love that we have a relationship beyond just a project, and thinking through how we can help each other and create that community of support and counsels. And I know for Objective, we also are involved in a number of different network, so that ultimately our different advisors could work with, you know, other corporate M&A attorneys and work with insurance brokers, et cetera. So making sure that you have built out your network, not just for your business, but for your operational needs, Noble, I think is so important. And so making sure that you have all these resources to tap into is huge in today's society and helping you succeed.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because bringing it home for me, being a Marine Corps veteran, I have now started tapping a lot of resources on LinkedIn with guys that have gone through what I've gone through around the same time. I think it's been truly enlightening that how my path has been parallel to a lot of other marketing professionals. And even though we have these busy lives because we don't have a lot of resources, we always take time out for one another, right? What I thought was fascinating when I first met you was how open you were and ready to share. You know, most people always believe it's a competition. But in the environment that we live in with this technology that is coming off the shelf every day, you know, like a fire hose, we need each other, you know, because we're helping others. What you do every day, and I know your founding team members over there, they always talk about they love what they do because they're actually helping people. It's not about the numbers in business because, like I alluded to earlier, my involvement with investment bankers from the old days was stereotypical, right?
Mhm.
Call it 2:30 in the morning. What is the deal? Let's get on it. Let's move this forward. But no, it's when you get into small and mid cap, right? It's about what are you doing? Who are you doing with? Which is really important. And some people miss that boat. And I feel that people are the greatest resource when it comes to technology, understanding it and utilization. We live in a fascinating time, but the technology is here to be in service of humanity or in partnership with humanity, I believe. And just like Objective, right? They are here looking at people over profits, right? Helping businesses. And we were talking about other tools that you utilize. What are some of the commercial tools that you like other than HubSpot? Do you use Canva a lot, which everybody does? Tell me what the top tier marketer, uses on a daily basis.
Oof. I could do a whole other podcast just on that.
I figured we're at the midway point, so I want you to give me as much you can as you can with what you use. Because for me, creating videos. You actually introduced me to Riverside for a podcasting platform, being our inaugural podcast episode. Prior to that, my only experiences was like with Teams and with split broadcasts. And yes, I live in Canva on a daily basis, but I also love Koala. It helps me flesh out a lot of ideas and create written content for our website. Enlighten me. What are you using to get through your day, to help coordinate your teams, get your projects in order and drive them forward? And what do you use to build frameworks to get your processes done?
Yeah, I love that you started with projects. And I think project management, especially on the operations side, is one of those like big cornerstones. We have our summer intern starting, and we just have so many things flying back and forth that we had to get it out of the inbox. And our favorite tool for that is Asana, which is a great project management tool. It makes it super easy for you to add tasks, but then like if you need to view it in a calendar view, it does that for you automatically. And also it syncs up to so many different things that you're able to just like, for example, even email someone something and then tag a Asana email and it gets added to your Asana board. There's just so many tricks and hacks and shortcuts. It becomes like one of those things that just really makes your to-do list much easier, and that you don't have to spend time like actually project managing and organizing because the tool's doing it for you. As far as content creation goes, so much of it is about like taking this one podcast and then turning it into social media shorts and article. And, you just want to spend that 1 hour and recycle it into as many formats of content as possible. And to help us with that, we have tried out a couple different things. We've tried Parrot AI, which takes and is a really quick way to do video editing, but also takes notes for any meeting that you're in. It does recordings. It turns it into a searchable transcript so that if you search any, that we touched on tools, you search that transcript for tools and then you just click on those words and it brings you to that moment in the video recording. So it really saves so much time when it comes to like video editing, for example. And then Otter AI is another tool that I've touched before.
My favorite.
Your favorite, there you go. That like is just so great at taking a transcript and helping you turn it into an actual article. That's the hack that I used Otter AI for. And, Canva, of course, is all of our all-time favorites. It's just like a godsend. And they have now so many AI capabilities from like,
oh my goodness, yes,
editing an image to, creating these videos. We actually have decided to, leverage our videographers a little differently so that they're capturing video for us and then we're doing the editing in Canva just to make things like go to market faster as far as
Yes.
assets go. And, I feel like even designers that I speak to who swear by Creative Cloud and Adobe are now saying like, actually, it's much easier to create assets for our clients in Canva because then they can do the editing of it as far as like,
Exactly.
maybe the number of team members has changed and they don't want to have to bother a designer who has to then go into a file to create it and then email it. No, it's so accessible that anyone could jump in and change what they need to change on copy or photos, etc. So yeah, definitely a huge tool.
Wow. Okay. So I use Trello. I started out in Asana, and all of our brains work different, right? So it was hard for me to grasp as a beginner with Asana. So Trello for me with the drag and drop and move was it reminded me more of OneNote. I use OneNote a lot in business. Also, when it comes to creating video and actually editing, for me, my go-tos Canva, like you had mentioned, but I like using Pictory, a lot of text to video, a huge bank of B-roll, and they have curated a ton of content of video, and also Jen. We were talking about Hey Jen earlier for
That blew my
training.
mind.
Yes, I created my own avatar. It's a tool that now again helps me have this omnipresence, which all of us as marketers try to do. I think that was the first thing we had talked about, the omnipresence, right? And everybody loves using Notion, and I just can't wrap my head around Notion, but I still have content in it that I like to move around. But other than that, for creators, each flow. It is like a teleprompter and a recorder. I've been using that exclusively to record my live segments for generating pieces and tutorials. It is amazing, the overlay and just how it actually works. But other than that, I'm 101% with you on Canva. Do you use Zapier at all during the day to connect your ecosystem?
I find it super helpful when you want to create like really short, easy if then moments. For example, if this type of email gets received in my inbox, then I want HubSpot to create or start a certain workflow. I don't have the two connected together, my inbox and HubSpot, because ultimately not every one of my email needs to be in HubSpot, number one. Number two, I don't need to take up an extra seat in HubSpot with me being an inbox user, etc. So this allows me to, one, cut back on costs as far as like how big my HubSpot contract is, but two, also still create that connection and save time and automation. Zapier is just one of those like incredible hacks as far as like, oh, I really wish that this thing that I do like manually 3-4 times a day could be automated for me. Hands down, look in Zapier. It probably exists. And it's probably as simple as just hooking two things up to it.
And again, they're updating their tools to make them more user friendly. And I believe that small businesses and entrepreneurs need to get on board now to cut down those processes that become so daunting and rudimentary through the day. Just maximizing your time. For me, looking at my business, try to translate that everywhere on the internet. Look, I know you do this. Use this. If there was one thing that you wanted to tell marketers, that what you do, and it's not giving away the secret sauce, right? What is one thing or one tool that you use more often than others that you would like to share with marketing professionals that you think they might not be using enough, other than Eve Pacific Media as a
Of
consultant?
course. Yes. That's number one.
Number one.
I think that when it comes to ultimately like organizing just how much email comes in every day and helping you prioritize what you need to focus your time on, I find that I'm always telling myself, okay, I'm going to work on this project, but then something comes in, it's an inbox ping and I get bothered by it. And I'm like, I'm just going to jump to that. I'm going to quickly answer that and come back. And then I don't come back to the project I'm actually trying to finish. And so squirrel moment. So I really think Superhuman has transformed how people are able to like manage their inbox because of the fact that it not only is helping you prioritize what you need to focus on, helping respond to those like urgent things that are coming in. For example, it's an important meeting request. You don't want them to be waiting. Superhuman can help you handle that. It's almost like having an executive assistant without paying for one. And then as far as like all of the manual things that go into coordinating meetings, like I hate spending the time doing that back and forth. Let Superhuman take care of that, right? As far as giving yourself like quiet time so you actually could focus and your inbox is not piling up with things and you don't have to worry about the inbox piling up with things. For example, Objective uses EOS. We have a strategic meeting once a quarter where we're sitting together for 6+ hours working through really important strategic planning. I don't want to have in the back of my head this anxiety that my inbox is getting hundreds of emails that is not being addressed. Let Superhuman take care of that. So I would say like that's one of those tools that like not just for marketers, but for like any business professional could be super helpful and worth taking a look at. And I think that for marketers, communication is so key. And I think, Noble, you hit on such a huge point around just omnipresence and any tool. Like I would say any tool that's going to make your life easier when it comes to doing that. Spend the time and energy to learn it, to digest how to use it, because it's worth just trying it out and seeing if that makes a difference. There's so many tools, like you mentioned, out there. And so it's about like brainstorming with great partners so that you can figure out what's the one that works for you.
Yes. Thank you for solving that pain point for marketers around the world. I know they will give you a kudos and a shout out on other podcasts. So I want to start giving you some of your time back because you have been so gracious to share your time with me. As we are moving forward at a breakneck pace, want to right now solicit a response from you that I think would be beneficial to us both. Will you come back and be on this podcast?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. This was such a pleasure. I always love talking about this. And I think to those who are listening, I hope this is valuable to you, but please connect with Noble, connect with I'll have my LinkedIn in most of my materials that I put out there. So we always want to continue learning ourselves. And this is an incredible opportunity to do that. So thank you, Noble. The answer is an absolute yes.
Thank you so much. The tools that we talked about today, I'll put them in the description, and also I'll link to your LinkedIn so people can get smarter like you've enlightened me today. Is there anything that you would like to touch on before we go? I know we've covered a lot.
We've covered so much, and maybe this is something that we can talk about for our next podcast, is about how big data has moved from this like enterprise bulge bracket area to like middle market, and how can middle market figure out and entrepreneurs and family businesses and every one of these businesses, if you touch some sort of digital strategy, marketing, utilize some sort of digital interaction, you're sitting on data. So how do you turn that into a benefit for you as a business? I'd love to dig into that on our next podcast.
Well, we don't have to cut off right now. You have now gotten me totally excited. But okay, I know you deal with a ton of data because we had touched on it in the beginning. How can the mom and pop operations and other entrepreneurs utilize that data that they're sitting on top of. I bet they don't even recognize the value of what they have, right? They don't know what they don't know. Please, before we go anywhere, dive deeper into that.
Yeah, I could use a great example of my really good friends who own a restaurant right down the street. They're using Seamless to help bring in a bunch of orders, which is great. It's helping them grow their business. On Seamless, there is a dashboard that gives them insight as to what dishes that they're making is actually being the most ordered. So therefore, that can help them plan in advance. Okay, these are therefore going to be the type of, ingredient sourcing that we need to think more about, because these are going to be dishes that's going to be more ordered. Then that goes into down the line thinking through how you can, as a marketer, of course, differentiate that product offering. So that goes into also our valuation opportunities around, okay, for financial reporting, how can we think about this as an asset and as something that for tax compliance opportunities, are there any opportunities there? It's almost this domino effect. If you start thinking about your data as not just something that is a byproduct, but something that you actually intentionally create a business strategy around.
Wow. Okay. So being a former food service specialist in the Marine Corps, that just rung my bell. Because planning to feed was huge, right? I would think because restaurant failure is huge in that niche, right? I believe a tool like that would save a lot of smaller businesses here in the United States. What other tools do you believe that or data that small businesses that you've encountered over at Objective, what is some of the data that they could use more effectively to help them either in marketing or in business? You were talking about EOS earlier, the entrepreneurial operating system, right? Help smaller businesses get more efficient. What data could they be leveraging?
Love that in EOS, they have a platform called 90IO, and that's where we're running our meeting agendas through. But also a very important part of the meeting agenda is the scorecard part. And there they highlight the importance of like, what are those 4 critical business metrics that you want to be keeping on track of so that you make sure that, your business is doing well. It's not just anecdotally, it feels like it's doing well. It's factually based on those metrics, your business is doing well. And I think it harkens back to my earlier point on the restaurant example, which is all of your digital tools are giving you a dashboard. And sometimes it could be overwhelming to be like, okay, on this digital dashboard, yet another one, what is the insight that I need to gather? And so that goes back to EOS saying, okay, you have access to all this data. What are the 4 core ones that you can, for a founder of a company, know that we're doing well? And then where do you get that data from? Because most likely you don't need to go and collect it. You don't need someone to constantly keep track of it. It's in a digital product that you're currently using. So just using Zapier to pull that into Excel sheet that then connects to 90IO, or maybe Zapier already is connecting to 90IO and I don't know yet. So I need to look into that. New idea.
Shout out EOS.
Yeah. Shout out EOS. So that, ultimately you don't have to do that extra work to keep track of all of these important metrics.
Gosh. Now I do feel fulfilled. And I apologize about the premature shutdown, because data is as marketers, it is gold, right? It is platinum. And I do believe that smaller businesses just don't know how to take that data and organize it and get it into spreadsheets and know how it actually helps them move their business forward and keep it not afloat, but to jettison upward into the stratospheres of profit. Cathy, thank you very much. You have definitely made me smarter. I can't stop saying it or feeling it enough. But I know that you are on the East Coast. What's the weather like on your side of the map?
It's bright and sunny, and it is a great, great day.
Well, go out, get your vitamin D shot, and I'll do the same. Thank you again, Cathy, for being our first guest here on Automations Avenue. Thank you. And until next time, continue to innovate and prosper.
It's
See you
been
later,
an
Cathy.
honor. Yes.
Thank you so much.